Okay, this is the Art Gallery e-magazine, and I'm interviewing David Paine, who is a painter from Kansas. And he's featured in our newest March issue. And we're just excited to have you here, David. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us.
Yeah, appreciate it. No problem.
Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
so tell us a little bit about your background as an artist, how you got started, and just I know you've been doing it for quite a while.
Yeah, it's not too exciting. I never went to college or anything.
You neither.
Nowadays, you don't have to take a lot of art training, I don't think, because there's a lot of, they got YouTube and everything else. I've been painting since I was 10 years old. My parents got me first set of oil paints when I was about 10. So 43 years now I've been painting. And I was drawing before then, so they knew that, I had an interest in art and particularly animals, because my dad used to get wildlife art calendars. We were hunters and fishermen, all that, So
Wow.
he got the Remington wildlife art calendars, and there was an artist on there. His name was Thomas Beecham. So he's pretty much my inspiration for painting.
Hmm.
And and I've just been painting all these years. And of course, I watched when I was a kid, I watched a few episodes of Bob Ross.
Of
so,
course.
so I tried that style for a while, which, I think Bob was a good guy and all, but I don't paint with his style anymore, the wet on wet or any of that. Um, and I've taken a lot of inspiration from some newer artists now. They got Andrew Tischler. I watch his stuff. I'm even in his academy, so I'm learning a lot through his
Right.
academy. And it's also kind of interesting, when you're younger, you want to paint. When you're a starting artist, it seems like you want to paint a lot of detail. Every blade of grass,
Right.
every
Right.
little piece of bark on the tree. But the older I'm getting a little bit more impressionistic, I guess you'd say.
Looser in style, yes.
Yeah, yeah, and I've been kind of following this young guy who's plein air painting. I've recently got into plein air painting, and I tell you what, that really hones your skills.
Wow.
Plein air painting, makes you kind of think, and you got to paint quick. The light changes out
Yep.
there. Uh, Very interesting. You got to lay in all your darks first. You were used to putting what's furthest back in first and working forward, but now I,
Wow.
I kind of changed all that up and just been learning a lot uh, through all these years of painting. So, yeah,
Well, um, you definitely have a very unique style. I love your style. I know oil painting is very hard, and especially, starting out, it's hard to get things very smooth, very realistic, but you've really mastered that very well. Now you're in
right.
Kansas, which is beautiful country, but it's
Yeah,
mainly plains and there's no mountain ranges there. And yet you've
yeah.
got a lot of beautiful mountains in your paintings. Do you travel to other states or
Mostly Colorado.
okay?
I've been to I've been to several states. I've been to
Yeah,
Alaska,
yeah.
Wyoming.
Well, I
Uh,
love the outdoors
yeah,
work. I'm a big outdoor guy. I grew up in Washington State. I live in Georgia now, but I've hiked the Grand Canyon. I've been 11,000 feet on Mount Rainier. I've kayaked and ridden horses in Alaska and the Yukon. And I've always been big outdoor stuff. And maybe that's why I'm so attracted to your paintings, but something about your paintings, it feels like you're right there. I mean, it's so. Not so much the realism, it's the depth. There's a depth in your paintings of landscaping, and I feel like I'm in the forest. I'm walking through the paths, and it's just amazing. You've got a very unique style with light and shadow. One of your paintings I was looking at, I forget the name of it, but the rays are coming out through the trees, and I zoomed in. I said, Those don't look like white paint. It just looks like light. It's amazing." But
Yeah.
I guess it takes a while to master that kind of style, huh? So,
Yeah, it does. And I mean, I don't claim to be like an expert at everything, but the more I've been learning, especially these last few years when COVID hit, you try to hone your skills even more, when you're just kind of sitting around and don't have a lot, not doing anything. But yeah, I just been honing my skills. I learned a lot more about color in that time, getting the colors right. When I was a younger artist, I used more white than I should have.
mm,
Titanium white, you can tend to make your paintings look chalky that way, and you don't want to do that. And I kind of learned that through these last few years. And so I kind of, took the titanium white down and try to use as little as that as possible.
mm.
Of course, if you're painting snow, you can't really get around it. But, and
What do you
learn,
think is the more difficult thing to paint? Sky, water, texture in uh, rocks, or different people have different difficulties in landscaping. That's the thing about landscaping. There's so many ingredients and so many textures, so many, you got to be very smooth in one area, very rough in another. Some people can do great mountains and terrible water, and
yeah,
great trees and terrible clouds. So that's the thing. You have to master a lot of different techniques in doing landscaping. What do you think is the hardest part for you?
I feel like sky and water, I've, you know, sometimes I like the way they look after I'm done, but I still feel like I haven't quite mastered it the way I want to. You know what I
Mm,
mean? So I mean, other artists might look at it and say, "Well, no, I think it looks pretty good." But then then I look at other artists that are beyond me, and I'm kind of like, "Well, I want to get to that point, and I don't feel like I'm quite there yet. I just feel like I haven't quite mastered it yet.
mm.
You know,
Well, what is your basic techniques? I mean, do you put as far as do you have an underpainting? Do you use
yeah.
glazes? What kind of finish do you use? What's your basic kind of technique?
I start out with a block in phase on my painting. I usually let that dry overnight, and then I'll come back in and I'll kind of do a kind of a modeling phase where I'm starting to add a little bit more detail in that phase, um, and starting to add texture. Now I kind of try to keep the texture to a minimum in the background, and then when I move toward the foreground, I want to pick up the texture and make it more textural or whatever, in the subject. And it kind of depends on my subject. Usually my subject is wildlife, but some of my wildlife I like to put them way back in the landscape, and sometimes I put it, you know, further up in the landscape. In which case, if it's way back, I don't use too much texture. I try to put the texture way up front. So and then so I'll take maybe 3 to 4 sessions in a painting, and letting it dry between each session, and that's how I can layer. Then I can start layering on with glazes and stuff like that. And that's another thing with glazes. I've learned a lot about glazes too. It used to be, you just thin the paint with paint thinner or something. You call that a glaze, or I'd call that a glaze. And nowadays, I try to do that with as little, thinning the paint as possible, and just paying attention to which paint is opaque and which paint is transparent, stuff like that, using more transparent paints. So yeah,
What kind of paint do you use?
I use mostly I use mostly gambling paint.
Okay.
I got a few other kinds in there, but gambling is what I'm trying to stick to, and I'm actually thinking about trying out some paint called
Hmm.
Blue Ridge oil paints. I heard about it from artist Andrew Tischler, so he swears by them. So I'm thinking about ordering some of those and trying those out and see how they work out for me.
Oh, very interesting. So you do pretty much, now I know that you're a surveyor, right? So
Yeah,
you get a chance to go out in nature a lot. I take it you take photographs when you see something that you think would be a good painting.
yeah, sure do. Yeah, do a lot of walking through the landscape. Got to walk through people's properties, and a lot of it is, you know, acres of property out in the country.
Wow.
Uh, Sections. I got to go out and find the section corners and all that. It's extremely interesting work, and it actually helps me with what I do.
It's hard to find really good photograph that you just know that that would be a great painting, you know. And a lot of
Yeah.
times I end up having to combine photographs, you know, in Photoshop or digital just to lay it out in composition and then use that as a reference, you know. But it's great when you can find something you said that's it, and you can pin it to your board or whatever. So, do you just sketch it out from a photograph? Do you like clip it in the corner of your easel, or how does that work for you?
I use several photographs, and I do exactly what you said. Most of the time I put several photographs together because it is hard to find.
Yeah,
You can't get a. You'll see some stuff out there, but a lot of times you can't get the composition exactly right without changing things. And as far as I'm concerned, it's not good to copy a photograph anyway. You kind of want to make it your own.
right.
You know what I mean? Make it your own artistically. So yeah, that's what I do. And Photoshop really helps. I also use Photoshop. Uh, Photos of animals. A lot of times you can reverse them in Photoshop.
Hmm. Right.
If you got an animal that, boy, that's a good pose, but he's facing the wrong way, just
Yeah.
reverse it in Photoshop. That helps a lot. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great thing about today's technology. It does make it much easier for reference material. I mean, even some AI you can is good if you're looking for something you just can't find anywhere. I know a lot of people, I mean, I don't really like AI, but at times it can be helpful just to use it as to make some sort of reference for something you want. But
Mm,
it's great that you've got that opportunity as a surveyor to go out and see nature and you probably have a great library of great nature shots that you can utilize. So, yeah, I've got like 40 of your pictures here, and I love the variety of it. I got to say, one thing I really enjoy about your painting is there's a spiritual aspect to it, to a lot of your paintings.
mm.
Tell me about that.
Well, I'm a born again Christian.
Great. So am I. Praise the Lord.
So awesome. So uh, that's where, and I actually do a little bit of prophetic art as well.
Oh, great.
I'm working on the prophetic art. I'm not quite there yet with that, like I am with the wildlife. But yeah, so I believe God created everything. So one thing that helped me after I became a Christian is before you're looking for perfection, now I know that I cannot obtain perfection because God created it.
Mm.
So you kind of you're looking to get better, but you enjoy the process. You can only get as good as you can get, so you don't let that consume you. So God created this. He's going to let me do what I do, and it's kind of freeing. You know what I mean?
Well, it's
Yeah.
there's a scripture in Romans that talks about that the things that are made reveal the nature of God so that people are without excuse, that God can be revealed in things that are made. And I think that's why I love the great outdoors. I love to walk, hike in the woods and to go out because when I look at nature, it's a reflection of our Creator. And I always say I like to create. I do sculpturing, I do painting, I do writing, I do so many things, but I like to create because I feel like I have a part of that creator within me. And
Yeah.
I think that a lot of painters recognize that they're, even though they're copying nature, they're also
Mhm.
reflecting nature, and they're reflecting the creation in their creation, the creator in their creation. So, but yeah, a lot of your paintings, you've got Moses kneeling at the burning bush, and things. It's just very ethereal and very spiritual. So I think, and again, the utilization of light that you do in your paintings. It's quite remarkable. So, but is there anything else you'd like to share before we end here?
Um, I really, I don't know. You got to kind of put me on the spot there.
That's all right.
Yeah, no, I just it's art is a wonderful journey, like you said. You know, God created us to create because we're made in His image, um, and it's a wonderful job. That's all I can say. When you
Yeah.
when you get to paint something, you make something with your own hands. Um, whether you build a house or paint a picture, making something with your own hands because that's the way God made you and
Mhm.
he put that in you. So yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm happy to be here to talk about it and share everything with you.
Well, thank you, David.
Yeah.
You're an inspiration, I'm sure, to many. I appreciate you being in the magazine and sharing your work and your talent. And I wish you the best and many blessings in what you do. And again, thank you very much. And the magazine should be coming up on the 1st. So thank you very much, David. I appreciate it very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, God bless.
God bless.
Thank you for watching our interview with David Paine. If you like his artwork and you want to see more of it, click up here. And if you want to see some of our other Spotlight videos, click down here. Thank you.